Yeah, I want to take a couple of minutes to talk about, come back to some topics related to objectivity. And the first of these is so-called anecdotal science or testimonials. So anecdotes or testimonials would be individual accountings or observations of certain phenomena. And that's very different from a controlled study. An example, I remember my mother-in-law one time saying that she had taken some ginkgo biloba for some reason, and she was confident that it had improved her vision. Now, maybe it does and maybe it doesn't, but I wouldn't conclude personally that ginkgo improves vision because that's not a controlled study, just one person thinking something is the case. A controlled study there would be you'd want to get a group of people, test their vision before, have them take the ginkgo, test it after, you'd have another group that didn't do that. But there's another component to controlled studies that we'd also would want to account for when we deal with humans. Now, this wouldn't really be so much an ecosystem types of studies, but with humans, we want to account for what's known as the placebo effect. Because with us, we have complex knowledge, complex behavior. So if we think we're getting better, if we think we're being treated for a particular disease, we have a better chance of actually recovering from that disease. So having a positive frame of mind, may actually make you better. So this is known as the placebo effect. So we try to account for that then in our controlled studies dealing with humans. And there are two types of studies that we do, a blind study and a double-blind study. So let's take an example here where let's say that a researcher wants to test some kind of a cancer drug, we'll say. And so in a blind study, what you would do is, let's say you have 100 people that you're going to test this with. And so again, you want an experimental and a control group. And so you'd make sure that your experimental group is getting the drug, and you'd make sure that the control group in this case also gets a pill to take. So what a blind study will do is help with this placebo effect. So we want everyone to think that they're being treated for the disease. They don't know who's getting the medication. They don't know who's getting the quote-unquote sugar pill or the placebo. So they all think that they're at least possibly in the study. So that helps alleviate the effects of that placebo effect. But there could be a problem on the other end. So that's what's known as a blind study. So when the subjects don't know who's getting the medicine and who's getting the placebo, that's a blind study. Now, a double-blind study is where not only do the subjects not know who's getting the medication and who's getting the placebo, but also the administrators of the drugs and placebos don't know either. So that's to counteract the effect that perhaps the administrator would be treating them differently. In other words, you might be telling one person who you know is getting the drug, to be sure to take the drug at certain times, and be sure you take it with food and never take it without food or water. And then a person who's getting a placebo, you might say, well, just follow these directions. So in other words, the subjects might realize, hey, they're treating that person different than they're treating me. I'll bet I'm not getting the medication. So to prevent that kind of thing then, in a double-blind study, the subjects don't know who's getting the medicine, and the people dealing out the medications, placebos, don't know. That way, everybody gets treated the same, and there's really no chance then you'll get a placebo effect going on. So again, I get a lot of questions from students about a variety of different medications, also a lot of supplements, for example. Supplements a lot of times don't have to go through the FDA standards of double-blind studies. But if you're not sure whether something really works or not, go to that company, ask for the double-blind study. If they haven't done it, or if they offer you 100 testimonials, it doesn't work, bottom line. And why would they spend millions of dollars to find out if it works if they're not required to do it? So if they do give you the double-blind study, then you can be pretty confident it works, especially if it's been published in a peer-reviewed journal. So anyway, that ensures objectivity, and that's when you know something is really solid gold, double-blind studies.